The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is making dramatic changes when it comes to the negotiating delegation and the team that will carry on the next phase of the ceasefire when it comes to Gaza. The families of the Israeli prisoners of war are worried and are raising their concerns not only in the public but also in the media where possible, and even with the United States President himself. Benjamin Netanyahu has been reportedly wanting to change the figures of the head of the Shabak and the head of the Mossad, and instead let Ron Dermer lead the negotiations surrounding phase 2. Concerns are, of course, rising from the families of the Israeli prisoners of war, saying that he's sending them to oblivion and we might never see them again. If he restarts the war, we might have our sons and daughters killed, because Benjamin Netanyahu already had a massive delay previously, and now any other delay will cause more problems when it comes to these people. Similar reports are talking about the priorities of Benjamin Netanyahu from the visit that he's going to have with Donald Trump. He's going to be prioritizing different things, apparently, rather than having the phase 2 of the ceasefire on top of the list. There are talks about him prioritizing having a deal with Iran and with Saudi Arabia. Well, a deal concerning Iran and Saudi Arabia. Deal with all of the threats of Iran. Have the Abraham Accords deal with Saudi Arabia, and only then talking about the phase 2 of the ceasefire. And many people are worrying that this could take months. So we could be stuck in phase 1 for several months before we have a phase 2 when it comes to the ceasefire. Now, a very important question arises. Would Benjamin Netanyahu be able to go back and restart the war if phase 1 ends without an agreement on phase 2 that was supposed to be dealing with ending the war completely? Israel was expected to declare the ending of the war during phase 2, again based on the reports, because the actual draft or agreement itself hasn't been published. That means people will be very worried, primarily the families of the Israeli prisoners of war. Also, despite the fact that there were reports, confirmations from the Biden administration and even Biden himself previously, that if there is no agreement on phase 1 in relation to phase 2, the ceasefire will continue up until an agreement is reached. No one is really trusting Benjamin Netanyahu when it comes to that. So we could potentially see an escalation, or a case of Donald Trump indeed giving him time so that he can carry on and try and reach something before this goes ahead. Again, Saudi Arabia previously stated, they're going to have a deal with the Palestinian side before they have an agreement with them. But Benjamin Netanyahu is still pushing on the fact that, oh no, I can actually reach a deal regardless of the situation with the Palestinian side. This is what they try to establish and carry out before the 7th of October, having deals with Arab states without solving the Palestinian case. And that's something that was very important when it comes to the Palestinian side, because if more Arab states start recognizing Israel and having deals with them without any solution to the Palestinian cause, you would be normalizing the existence of this occupying entity without any solution for the Palestinian people. So that Benjamin Netanyahu now, he's trying to take things back in time to the phase of pre-7th of October, where he can have deals with other countries without any relation to the Palestinian cause. It's going to prove to be very difficult. However, it is very, very worrying. Not everyone in Israel is worried. The people who are not worried are, one of them is a woman called Daniela Weiss. She's a leading figure in the Israeli squatting establishment. She had this speech several days back after Benjamin Netanyahu agreed to a deal in relation to the ceasefire. Let's have a look.
I address Prime Minister Netanyahu. You are the head. Indeed, you are the head. And it's up to you to change a terrible route that just started. You can stop it today. Not because they don't give the names, because it is a lie. It's a danger. It leads to a horrible Saudi Arabia peace plan. No, no, no. We say no to all this distorted route. We want Am Israel in Eretz Israel, in the great Eretz Israel, and never submit to terror, and never, 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 never give any part of the living body of Eretz Israel to anybody. Not to live, as Ramban said, not to leave Eretz Israel to enemies, and not to leave it desolate. We will settle Gaza. We will settle Lebanon. We will settle the entire promised land. Thank you very much.
Now, what you need to understand when she says the entire promised land, biblically, from her interpretation and vision, the biblical promised land includes lands in Saudi Arabia and Jordan. That's why she doesn't want to have a peace treaty with them. And that's why she had this speech saying yes to victory and no to a deal of submission. She reminded me of someone, though, in that speech. She reminded me of someone very similar to her, actually.
Locked and bolted. Good. Hey. No.
Even when it comes to talking, like if you hear that woman talking here in this movie, The Witches, if you remember it.
I see the repulsive sight of hundreds, thousands of revolting little children. The door!
Tell me you didn't find any resemblance between both of them, although the high priestess of the coven, miles better than Daniela Weiss. There is no comparison. So there are those who are worried in Israel, and they are primarily the families of the prisoners of war who just want to end the war and get their loved ones back. Others, however, no, they don't want anything. They don't want an agreement. They don't want a peace treaty. They want to settle in Gaza. They want to settle in Lebanon and in the whole Eretz Israel, meaning also in Saudi Arabia and also in Jordan and also in Sinai, all across of these areas. And this woman, by the way, she was in Gaza. She was invited by the Israeli army to the Netzarim corridor when Israel was still present before the ceasefire took effect, and they were talking about settling in Gaza. They already have plans. They already have maps of how they want to build in Gaza and all of that. She was very worried, that woman. And again, Benjamin Netanyahu was having to deal with the leaders of these type of people in the Israeli government, Smotrich and co in his government. And the United States, of course, it's no surprise who dictates the foreign policy of the United States. I think Miriam Edelson, who volunteered with more than $100 million to Donald Trump, and her campaign in total actually reportedly gave over $230 million US, apart from her direct donation to Trump. All you need to do is listen to Miriam Edelson.
That president is Donald Trump. He promised to recognize Jerusalem and to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Promise kept. He promised to withdraw from Iran nuclear deal, and promise kept. He promised to bring peace between Israel and Arab nations. Promise kept. And all in Golan Heights, that was a big gift. He promised Golan Heights, and he recognized. And all of this he did in his first term while battling COVID pandemic, race riots, and the liberal media. Now I want to tell you, politicians make promises. Real leaders keep promises.
So what did Donald Trump promise Miriam Edelson and Zayas Lobby for this term? Did he promise them that he would recognize Israeli sovereignty in the West Bank? Did he promise them he's going to expel the population from Gaza? Did he promise them that he's going to expel the population from the West Bank as well? Did he promise them all of that? Well, by what they're doing, by what he's doing in his administration, he is already doing stuff for them. We know who is dictating foreign policy. In the name of American interests, by the way, beware of that. In the name of American interests. They don't say it in the name of Israel or the Israeli lobby and what have you. No, all of it is in the name of America. They want to deport people who oppose genocide because they're anti-American. What's anti-American about opposing a genocide? Right? And now he is also planning to withdraw again from the UN Human Rights Council and stop UNRWA funding. Prohibit future funding and withdraw completely. Why? Why? If you read between the lines and if you actually hear the statement, why the UNRWA? Well, that's an Israeli plan. UNRWA is the main agency supporting the refugees formed after the 1948 Nakba as a direct result for the formation of the State of Israel. And the reasons that they're actually quoting here in this article for their withdrawal from the UN Human Rights Council is the fact that it's critical of Israel and that it's unfair to Israel. What does that have to do with the United States? Why is the United States as a country withdrawing from the United Nations Human Rights Council? Because it criticizes Israel. Is it for the same reason that they vetoed every resolution that came against Israel for the past 60, 70 years? Half of the vetoes used in favor of Israel, even more than half. And stopping the funding of UNRWA, an agency that is there only to focus on for the relief of refugees. Relief of refugees, healthcare, basic aid. The UNRWA is supposed to deliver the basic of the basic when it comes to the necessities of the displaced Palestinians in Gaza, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. And they want to stop funding and they want to withdraw from the United Nations Human Rights Council, all for the sake of Israel and all as influence as an influence by the Israeli lobby inside of the United States. Now imagine we were talking about any other country. Imagine we're talking about China. Imagine we're talking about Russia. Imagine we're talking about any other Arab or Muslim country. Well, one of them is now sentenced for lobbying for Egypt, to add more aid for Egypt. Yet, people who are directly bribed and blackmailed and were involved in pedophile networks that belong to Jeffrey Epstein and others who we don't know about, they're there working in everything is working fine. Now, Iran is on top of the list of the discussions when it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu and his talks with Donald Trump. Iran is realizing that, well, they're going to be part of the talks between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. Therefore, they are sending messages. Iran released several videos to do with the new missile coastal city, specifically designated for cruise missiles. Massive location, tunnels under the ground, with cruise missiles reaching of up to 1,000 kilometers. And we're talking about massive areas, lots of massive infrastructure under the ground. Not less impressive than their actual tunnels that they had when it comes to the ballistic missiles over the ground, land-to-land ballistic missiles. It's not less impressive than their air defense systems. And we're talking about huge numbers again, and that's one of their facilities, only one of their facilities. Iran doesn't publish everything. Now, we were talking yesterday about the fact that Yemen as a country led by Ansarullah, having all of this effect on the United States in the Red Sea, forcing 3 US aircraft carriers to retreat, expelling US aircraft carriers from the Red Sea. And imagine what Iran can do. And this imagination, well, we don't have to imagine too much. Iran, by revealing these videos, they are actually sending the messages to Donald Trump before Benjamin Netanyahu meets him. They're telling him, Donald Trump, you want to try and do something? You want to try and help them? This is some of what we have. These are some of the facilities that we have that are capable to hit you where it hurts most when it comes to US presence globally. The United States aircraft carriers are considered to be the thing that intimidates countries global. Nuclear US aircraft carriers, able to conduct missions against almost every country. They constantly bully China and countries in West Asia with these aircraft carriers. However, Ansarullah managed to expel them for the past 15 months with basic capabilities. Now, Iran is showing them who has more capabilities and who's supporting Yemen in having this deterrence and this level of influence in the Red Sea. And when it comes to Iran, you're talking not only about the Red Sea, but the Strait of Hormuz. Recently, they already had war drills next to the Strait of Hormuz, and they also dictated the movement. They told ships to go or not to go. You can move here, you can move there, including ships that are related to Western countries too. And it wasn't only that facility under the ground to deal with the coastal underground location facility of the ballistic missiles or the cruise missiles that are primarily land to sea. It was also a new missile that Iran revealed with the presence of none other than the Iranian president himself, Masoud Pezeshkian. Masoud Pezeshkian was present in a ceremony, a reveal of a new Iranian missile called I'timad, reported to have a range of 1,700 kilometers. 1,700 kilometers, 16 meters long and 1.25 meters in diameters. It carries a guided warhead as well, so it can hit the desired target. This is a missile that is supposed to be more advanced than what the Iranians used against the genocide entity in True Promise 1 and True Promise 2. So is that another message coming from Iran to tell Israel this is what you're going to be dealing with if True Promise 3 happens and you try and continue with your bullying, especially if there would be any breaches when it comes to the ceasefire in Lebanon, or if they would try and extend their bullying and presence inside of Lebanese territories. So the next few days and the decisions that are going to be arising from those meetings between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu are going to be very important. Not only because they're dealing with Iran, they're also dealing with Egypt. There was a video published by one of the members of the public when it comes to Egypt about the level of Egyptian tanks in Sinai, in Rafah, not just in Sinai. Rafah, that's because Rafah there's an Egyptian Rafah and a Palestinian Rafah. So on the other side, the level of presence. So this video was showing the levels of tanks just near the borders in the Egyptian Rafah. Massive numbers of tanks, and it wasn't just tanks, it was also forces, Egyptian forces that belong to one of the Egyptian tribe leaders who have very strong connections with the government. These were some of his vehicles in Rafah, in the Egyptian Rafah. And this man has a strong position, and they are armed as well alongside the Egyptian army. Some of these tribes in Sinai, and this leader, Al-Arajne, if I'm not mistaken, his surname is, his origins are from Gaza. His mother is from Khan Yunis. Ibrahim Al-Arajne, if I'm not mistaken, his name is. And the tribes of the Egyptian Rafah and the Palestinian Rafah, they're related. That's also sending a message from Egypt, multiple messages, not only the presence, not just the protests, not just the military presence, after so much military presence in the past 15 months anyway, with the largest drills happening in Sinai, unprecedented numbers of forces deployed in Sinai, over 100,000 troops in Sinai, heavy equipment, something that breached the peace treaty with every line of it, and according to senior Israeli officials. This is a message that it's not only the army, it's also the people who are related to those in Gaza and have a very strong feeling towards what's happening. Not like the population doesn't have a strong feeling, but these people are talking about direct relatives of the people inside of Gaza who feel their pain very much. Again, the whole world does, but these people, direct relations you're talking about, and they have families that are split between the Egyptian Rafah and the Palestinian Rafah too. So Donald Trump, he's escalating, and he has this bullying approach and a bullying tone. However, the countries on the other side, they're also providing him with answers. He's bullying with tariffs against Canada and China, and they're responding to him. He's trying to bully South Africa, they're responding as well. He's trying to have this bully approach with Egypt, sometimes with Iran, or less so than Egypt, by the way, because he reduced his tone with Iran after he became president, unlike the previously, potentially to please the Zionist lobby and Israeli lobby supporting him. They are responding, and they are sending him messages, and these messages shouldn't be overlooked. These should be considered seriously, and they are, when it comes to the US administration, saying that it doesn't matter how much you want to apply pressure, we have our limits and we have our red lines, and there is a limit to what we can accept or not accept. And when it comes to certain things to deal not only with the Palestinian cause, but with matters of our internal national sovereignty and national security, we will be taking actions regardless of the positions that we have with the United States as a country.